Okay, let me start the Shrek thing.
Now, I've not seen Shrek more than just the original, and that was years and years ago, so I know nothing about this. Kinda like I was about SpongeBob.
Hmm. Yeah, I'd never seen SpongeBob either. You should have gotten an invite?
Alright, hang on. Uh, no, I didn't. Send me another one. Okay, got that one.
Okay.
It's loading.
Okay. Hey.
Alright. Whoa. Okay, then. Where does one even start?
Anywhere.
Oh, look at you.
Yeah, you look the same.
Cool.
A suit of armor and everything.
Yeah, neat. What's that?
The mascot head.
Okay. I'll start here and go to the right. Well, to it facing out to my right.
Okay, and I'll do the same on the left.
Okay.
You enjoy some sumo last night?
I watched for I don't know, about 4 or 5 matches, if that's what they're called.
Yeah.
It was interesting.
Yeah, Cappy and I are really into it now.
I got a kick out of some of the commercials.
Oh yeah, he plays old Japanese commercials from the 90s and stuff when they do their commercials because apparently that channel that he like re-commentates over, they just play like the same 4 commercials over and over again all night long.
That would be kind of boring.
Yeah, so he's like, I go and find old 90s Japanese commercials and we watch those. Got a new guy starting at work on Monday.
Oh, fun. Is he experienced?
No, not really.
That's even more fun.
Well, we need a guy that, you know, we can train up and will learn quickly, but we need him to do some of the less complicated stuff right now anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Do you have to train him?
yeah, I'm going to be training him all week essentially.
Oh, this has a turnstile.
Yeah. Hey, what's up, Trika?
Hey, Trika. Yep, you're first.
You know, technically Cappy was first, but we've got vegetable stew. Nice.
Good for you. I had leftover instant mashed potatoes and leftover chicken. I'm still trying to empty out my refrigerator.
Yeah, get rid of a bunch of the stuff.
Because it's no fun being gone for as long as I'll be gone and come back and find stuff in your refrigerator that you wish you hadn't forgotten about.
Yeah, we did that when we went up there for the hurricane. And we came back and we were all, because our apartment was without power for like 3 days.
Ugh.
And we came back and we're like, wow, our apartment smells like rotted meat. All the raw meat in the freezer went bad.
Oh, gosh. I kept hearing all week, Houston got snow. Houston got snow.
Yeah, well. You don't know what the stigma is against leftovers? Is there a stigma against leftovers?
With some people, there is.
Certainly isn't for us.
Shoot, when Matt was growing up, we used to have Raid the Refrigerator Day.
Yeah. There's no official dinner being made tonight.
Just get what you want out of the fridge and fix it yourself.
Yeah.
Shoot, I'll make a pot of chili or spaghetti or something, and it'll last me all week.
Yeah. We'll do that with stew sometimes. We'll make a nice heavy stew. And we'll just eat off of it all week. Yeah, tonight's the final night of the sumo tournament.
What happens then?
They go on break for a little while and come back in 2 months.
Oh, okay. You'll have to find something else to watch.
Yeah, well, we stopped watching Star Trek for it, so we'll get back to watching Star Trek again.
Yeah.
Hey, Cappy. Woo!
Woo!
Yeah, we are almost done with Voyager. Very, very close. We're on the last season. But before the next... But we've basically agreed that when Sumo starts up again in 2 months, we'll put whatever show we're watching on hold again. Because Sumo's only 2 weeks, so...
Makes sense.
Every time you think about it and trying, you stop after the second season of Voyager. Bro, the second season, the show hasn't even gotten good yet. It's just okay. Star Trek's one of those shows that most of the shows, you have to give them 2 or 3 seasons before it even starts getting good. Like, The Next Generation gets okay. Like, season 1 is... It's got some really good episodes, but the majority of them are just really hard to watch. And then season 2 is okay. And it really hits its stride in season 3.
Yeah.
An
You
exception...
get the characters all developed the way they should be, and...
Yeah. There is an exception to that rule, as Deep Space Nine gets really good, like, on episode 4. It does the same thing, but it does it on episode counts. Episode 1 is good, episode 2 is better, and then episode 3 and 4, you're like, okay, this show is awesome. Season 1 is bad of TNG, season 2 is okay, 3 is good, you agree? DS9 was good at the start? Yes. Exactly. So you and I agree. I would say Voyager starts getting really good at season 3. And then season 4 is where it really takes off. And it's like crazy good in season 4 and forward. Cappy and I discussed the problem with Voyager, and she and I both agreed what the problem was. Is that they could never get a constant enemy in Voyager. For like the first 3 or 4 seasons, they were every 2 or 3 episodes was like, oh my god, everybody's gonna die. Here's a new enemy that's taken over the ship. And then they'd fix it, and like 2 episodes later, oh my god, here's a new enemy. Everyone's gonna die.
Yeah.
They've taken over the ship, and you're just like, you can't do this every few episodes.
It's like the writers have to get their feet wet.
Yeah. The problem was is they started it so quickly they couldn't pull any writers off of Deep Space Nine. Because it was still going. It was in like when they started Voyager, Deep Space Nine was like season 4. It was just hitting its stride. So they had to use completely new writers.
Yeah.
It's a voyage. You don't get a constant enemy. You do at season 4. I mean, there's always like a new enemy periodically, but like in Next Generation, right? There were new enemies in every episode, but they kept bringing some back. So there were some constant enemies that would constantly interfere with them periodically.
The Borg, Q.
Yeah, exactly. And in DS9, there wasn't really that. Or not DS9. In Voyager, there's not really that. And all of the enemies that they did try to get to stick for a longer period of time weren't interesting. Like the Kazon people at the beginning of the show, they were
Yeah.
just non-threatening. They tried to make them really big, bad, and scary, and you're like, they don't have any of Voyager's technology, though. Like, they're constantly complaining that they're really far behind Voyager in technology, and yet somehow they're constantly kicking Voyager's ass. It doesn't make any sense. Man, this is a big level. Jeez.
It is. Oh, this is cute. Our what do you call it?
Ladder?
Our big
Oh,
ladder
our
is made of
scaffold.
scaffold is made of wood.
Yeah, I've got the regular ladder and the step stool over here, and they're both like wood and rope.
It's weird that I had all my concrete power washed today,
Oh, yeah?
and now I'm doing this.
It's like when Lucid would play Truck Simulator with us after a long day of hauling stuff across country.
Yeah.
And then he's like, great, I get to drive for entertainment now.
Well, as long as I wasn't the one doing the actual power washing, I'm okay with it.
Kidding? I would have killed for that.
No, 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 no. It looks like it's fun, but after 30, 45 minutes, you just want it to be over with. Because it's tiring. And it takes a lot longer than you think it's supposed to take.
Oh, well, I knew that. Yeah, yeah.
Although he had one of these, I forget what he called it, pavement cleaners.
Yeah, it looks like a frisbee.
Well, no. Looks like an old fashioned carpet cleaner, basically.
Oh, okay.
Carpet sweeper. And it did a bigger swath.
I've seen them that look like discs that you attach to the thing.
Oh yeah, yeah, I've seen those too.
That's what I was thinking you meant.
This one was a big square thing.
Gotcha. But after Voyager, Cappy is going to assist me in trying to finally sit down and finish Enterprise for the first time.
I loved Enterprise. I really did. I liked the characters. I wish it had lasted longer than it did.
I started watching it again a while back, like before Cappy and I got into Star Trek. And I made it further than I had before. And then I stopped watching it for some reason. I can't remember why.
But it's like you were saying, it takes a few episodes to get, into the swing of it.
Yeah. I think the problem for me with Enterprise is the thing that bothered me the most was they kept like um retconning history.
I'm not sure I know what that means.
They would change, like, things were established in Star Trek as happening in a particular order
Oh, yeah, yeah.
already, and then Enterprise would go back and be all like, actually, it happened here. Like I remember watching TNG, and they were talking about how they had never actually seen a Ferengi face to face in TNG. And then in Enterprise, the Ferengi show up in one of the episodes. And I'm just like, are you trying to tell me that they never described what these aliens looked like? They didn't take records of this?
Did they not have cameras?
Yeah. So, and then I was all like, I don't know.
Yeah, well, continuity problems like that are always going to be a problem with Star Trek.
Problem was is they realized that Enterprise wasn't doing very good ratings wise, and then their correction to fix it was let's introduce characters from other shows to get them interested.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you can't do that. This takes place in the past. You can't just do this. And they're like, yeah, we can. Watch us.
Yeah. Yeah, all this retroactive stuff. We can do this. Nobody's going to notice.
Yeah, who would remember this? And meanwhile, they're talking to Star Trek fans.
Well, I wasn't well enough versed in the Star Trek universe to notice stuff like that.
Yeah.
But if you don't notice it, then it's actually a pretty good show.
I will say, when I was rewatching it a few years back, I was having a better time than I remembered I did the first time.
Now, I couldn't tell you the names of the characters because it's been too long,
Well, yeah.
but I had my favorites. And, I guess you do that with every reiteration of the universe. You
Yeah.
get your favorites.
Enterprise you would rate as okay.
Yeah, it was okay. Some episodes were pretty good, some episodes not so good.
Oh,
But I think Enterprise earned a place in my heart when, after 9/11, they welcomed the USS Enterprise ship home, and your brother was on it. And that earned them my loyalty right there.
well, that's cheating.
Well, yeah, but it did. I was really touched by that. And that was during that period where everybody was very patriotic and waving flags and all this kind of stuff. And
The current king of Jordan had a cameo on Voyager. Yeah, we've already seen that episode. He's just some random crewmate in the hallway, and he like I think he hands Janeway like a pad with information on it. She's like, "Thanks," and just walks off. But it was like pretty much all like there's been so many famous people that have been in Star Trek as just like one-off characters because they're like, "Oh my god, I'm obsessed with Star Trek. Can I be in an episode?" He donated a lot to be in it.
I'm not surprised.
The other day we saw the episode of Voyager that has Dwayne the Rock Johnson in it.
Hmm.
Iggy Pop was in an episode.
Sometimes they're so camouflaged that you don't even know it unless you know it, you know?
Yeah. There was an episode with one of the guys from ZZ Top in it, and he was a giant fish person, so you couldn't even see his face. And the funniest thing about it is he was so desperate to be on Star Trek. They were like, "We can make you this fish person," and he was like, "That's fine." And then they were like, um, "Hey, to get the prosthetics to fit properly and work on your head, you're gonna have to shave your beard." And he was like, "No problem, I got it."
Really?
Yeah, he just shaved his beard.
Oh my gosh.
Apparently, it wasn't a big deal because he's like, "It'll grow back really fast." But he shaved his beard to be on Star Trek. Who's that you're talking about with the beard? One of the guys from ZZ Top. I forget which guy. But it's in like season 2, I think, of Star Trek: The Next Generation. There's like 2 fish people that show up on the ship. I think it's season 2. It's early in TNG. That's the one with Troy's mom, yeah. Because she's like, "Who? These fish people? Oh, those are assassins."
I
We're
always
not.
liked her. Her character.
They make a special bath for them? No, that's a different character. I know what you're thinking about, Trika. That's a different character. This one is the one where they were unconscious the entire time, and then they had to when they came out of stasis, they were really hungry, so they were in sick bay, and they all they could say was food, and then they like got into this giant barrel and like started shoving like weird fish stuff into their mouth. I know the one you're talking about with the weird bath in the quarter. That was a that was one of the episodes with Sarek in it. Because Sarek was doing a diplomatic meeting on the Enterprise, and the species he was dealing with had to be in like this weird, kind of like a mud bath thing. Yeah, you remembered something. You just remembered which episode that was wrong. That's all. I don't even consider that like a mistake. I just consider that misremembering. And I only know more accurately because we just watched it like 6 months ago. It was more fresh in my mind. Hey, we're at 25%.
It's going faster than I thought.
Yeah. That's the difference between a Trekkie, a fan, and a Trekkie.
Yeah, I would
Maybe.
agree with that.
Yeah, in near encyclopedic knowledge of all things Star Trek. Yeah. But there
I
are
mean, let's
certain.
look.
Oh, go ahead.
Let's face it. If you had a chance to wear a Starfleet uniform for Halloween or something, you'd do it.
Yes, absolutely, without a doubt. We even looked one up, but that's not gonna happen.
Yeah, they're kind of expensive.
Yeah, there are in our price range. The ones that are in our price range look like crap. They look like Star Trek uniforms for like 11-year-olds. You know, they look like a typical 11-year-old kid's Halloween costume. They're just
The
really,
plasticky stuff, yeah.
yeah, really crappy, plasticky looking stuff. If you want an outfit, if you want a Star Trek uniform that looks half decent, it's like $100 and up minimum.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm not gonna spend that money for a one-time joke. No.
You'd only wear it one time?
Well, just on stream for Halloween, yeah.
You'd be wearing it to bed. You'd be doing all kinds of stuff with it. Wear it to your office party.
You know, Cappy enjoys Star Trek. I don't think she'd enjoy me wearing a Star Trek uniform to bed.
Maybe you should ask.
I don't think I need to ask for that one. They were traveling to some conference and the fish guys were diplomats. Yes. I remember that they changed the TNG uniform after season 2. Yes. I think it was season 3. They got new uniforms because all the actors hated the uniforms from seasons 1 and 2. They were like, this is terrible. You guys have to do something else. And that's when you got the Picard maneuver, because the new uniforms were much more comfortable, but because they were two-piece, the top part would like ride up, so he would have to like constantly pull his
Yeah.
shirt down.
I remember that's the first couple of seasons was when Troy was wearing this god awful miniskirt.
Yes. And then they finally put her in. They still
Pants.
they still put her in like her own uniform, but they gave her pants. And then in like the last 2 seasons, they allowed her to actually wear a real Star Trek uniform for a while. Well, as I came to realize when I got older and I started looking into like actors commenting about what it was like to work on Star Trek, I realized that one of the producers on Star Trek was a horrible human being. Um, like he treated people like garbage. He was very sexist.
Yeah, Gene Roddenberry was not the best person.
Well, not for stuff like that, yeah, but this was a different guy. Because this guy continued through Voyager and was terrible in Voyager too. But like a lot of the actors are like, yeah, a lot of the female actors were like, you know, he was constantly forcing us to, or like commenting on our weight and telling us we needed to fit into smaller clothes. Crap like that. The guy hated Will Wheaton to the point of like when they would do anniversary get-togethers, the guy wouldn't even introduce Will Wheaton even though he was there.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's this person was garbage.
I have to admit, they could have done so much more with Will Wheaton's character.
Yeah, I read his autobiography, Will Wheaton's,
Mm-hmm.
and he kind of explains what happened. Like, first off, that producer didn't like him, so he didn't really do a good job. He didn't like emphasize that the writers should do a good job with his character. Um, but in addition, like a lot of the other cast, um, initially didn't know how to act around him either, and he thought that meant that nobody liked him, and so he ended up getting really bitter about it, which it's understandable.
Yeah,
And
everybody wants to be liked.
yeah, and of course, even him, he was a teenager, right? That even more so for a teenager that's getting into acting. He's like, I want to know that I'm doing a good job. I want to know that these actors like me, and I'm not just some burden on them. And unfortunately, the other actors just they thought he wanted to be left alone, so they left him alone. And that's the exact opposite of what he wanted. So he thought they were ignoring him.
That had to be tough.
Oh yeah, especially as a kid, right?
And he was a decent actor.
Yeah,
I mean, he played his part pretty well.
yeah. I liked his character,
Yeah, me too.
but you know, they didn't do a good job writing his character for him. So like in the first couple of seasons, they made him like an infallible child genius, and it's like, where do we go from there? Like, if he's an infallible child genius, how do we have story growth
Yeah.
for this character? And then they,
I mean, they should have had him assigned to somebody, one of the other characters, to train him in Starfleet protocol and stuff, because that's not stuff he would have known
yeah,
intrinsically.
there were so many times that his character was like, hey, you know all these people that have gone to Starfleet Academy and have dedicated their entire lives to like science and engineering and stuff? Well, here's this like 15-year-old kid who knows the answer to their problem that they can't figure out. And
Yeah.
it's like the character, I didn't quite like the character so much. I thought the character was fine like at the beginning, but after a few times of just like he did that, you're just like, well, where do you go from there? And then they were
Yeah.
like, they gave him the whole traveler thing storyline, which was cool, but like, okay, so he's destined to be like this superhuman. Well, I guess he's done with Star Trek. And that's how they kind of wrote him out.
Yeah.
Like, he's going to go with this traveler guy. And then he shows back up later like nothing happened. Hey, just ignore the fact that I was gone for a couple of years with the traveler. Nothing came of it. I'm back now. It's just like, guys, you got to write this character better. You think he was supposed to be the future evolutionary step for humans? I think that's where they were trying to go with it, but it's not really what Star Trek's about, you know?
Well, and that was one of the things about Star Trek that always kind of irked me, was that they had this prime directive, and yet they pretty much broke it every episode.
Yeah, you had that problem sometimes with certain characters where they'd be like, um, in one episode they'd be like, I would never do this. This would break the prime directive, and it's against what I believe. And then in the next episode, somebody'd be like, hey, can we break the prime directive? And the same person would be like, yeah, sure, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, it's more just guidelines. Picard went on trial for it. Well, that's where they do actually establish that the Prime Directive is not actually like a law that cannot be broken. It's more it's more along the lines of like it's a set of rules that you're supposed to stick to as much as possible. But then they established that, and then later they were like, I would never do this. It's against the Prime Directive.
Yeah.
It's like, didn't we just say that that's not that critical? And now we're pretending like it's the be-all, end-all again. Didn't they have an episode in Voyager where the crew goes through fast evolution and the captain turns into an iguana? Yes and no. It's not the whole crew, it's just 2 people. But yes, the captain does turn into a salamander, actually. Is that what it's called? The threshold?
Yeah, because it was the threshold event.
Ah.
And let's see how really weird we can get.
I mean, Star Trek gets weird. Let's be honest. Star Trek definitely goes there. Paris and Janeway. Yep, it was Paris and Janeway. Both turned into salamanders. They ran off to a planet, had babies together, and then when the crew finally gets there and finds the babies, they de-evolve Paris and Janeway and just leave their children on this planet. They're like, the salamander babies ran off into the undergrowth, and they're like, oh well, we're out of here. I think Janeway probably breaks the Prime Directive more than any other captain. Because she breaks the Prime Directive like 5 or 6 times a season. Because she's like, we're trying to get home. We need to make sure that none of these alien species in the Delta Quadrant get our technology, because that would change the political landscape of the quadrant. And then the next episode, she's like, so I traded torpedoes with this other group of people so I could get food. You're just like, what? What?
Wait a minute.
Didn't you just say you can't do that?
Has Kate Mulgrew done a book or anything?
Like an autobiography?
Or
I don't know if Kate Mulgrew's done a biography or not.
that would be interesting to read.
I do know that she hated Jerry Ryan when they were making the show.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, and then I read an article recently that was like, you know, she hated her for a long time, and then they actually had like a sit down conversation with each other once, and they realized that neither of them were to blame. They just didn't. Well, Kate Mulgrew didn't like Jerry Ryan because when she joined the show, Kate Mulgrew thought it was taking the attention off of her being the first female captain of Star Trek and onto this other lady, which,
Yeah.
let's be honest, it kind of was.
Yeah.
Who hated whom? Character names? Captain Janeway and 7 of 9. And it was a one-way hate. The actress who played 7 of 9 did not hate Captain Janeway. She kind of, I don't know what you would say. She was unappreciative that Kate Mulgrew didn't like her. But she didn't actively hate her. But like, you can't tell when they act together.
No.
They're extremely professional on the show. But even Kate Mulgrew was like, she's embarrassed about it now because she's like, I feel like an asshole now because like they get along great. But she's like, at the time, I thought it was her, like, she was trying to show everybody up. And it really wasn't. It was the fact that that actress, it all goes back to that douchebag guy I was talking about earlier. The Jerry Ryan at the time was dating that producer who's a douchebag. And so the producer was like, hey, you want to be in Star Trek? You're an actress. And she's like, sure, that sounds like great. That's really good, like long-term work. Yeah, let's do it. So he's like, cool, you can be this new character on the show and I'll make it all about you now. Because you're my
Wear these sexy
girlfriend.
bodysuits and,
Yeah, yeah. That's another thing Kate Mulgrew didn't appreciate it. She's like, you're making this new female character like a sex symbol on the show. And it's like drawing attention away from, other actors, including me, which, like, let's be honest, there was a little bit of like, I'm the first female.
professional jealousy. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the first female captain. I deserve, the show should be more focused on me because this is important and not like, ooh, look, sexy lady.
Well, wasn't that Jerry Ryan's, was that her first major acting part?
First major acting part, I believe so.
Or she had been in some soap opera or something, I think.
Not sure.
But Kate Mulgrew had been acting for years.
Oh, yeah.
She was very well established.
Yeah, she was well known before she started in Star Trek. I always find it weird going back and watching TNG for the over again in season 1, because you see Geordi on the bridge in a red shirt. I'm like, what are you doing here, Geordi? Get down to engineering. And he's like, I'm not even an engineer. Get out of here. You don't belong here. You're the chief engineer. He's like, no.
I didn't particularly care for it when they brought back characters from the original series and put them in to this more advanced setting. Like they brought back Scotty and I didn't care for that.
I thought as long as it was like a one-off episode, I thought it was okay. Like, I didn't really have a problem with Scotty. I did think it was kind of like fan service.
Yeah, exactly.
The only thing I have a problem with is I have a problem with the fact that even to this day, they keep trying to go back to Captain Kirk. And they keep trying to find ways to bring William Shatner back into Star Trek. And I'm like, dude, like 80% of that cast, or 80 to 90% of that cast is dead.
Yeah.
Stop trying to bring them back.
Let it rest. Good grief.
I think the only ones that are still alive are Captain Kirk, Sulu, and Chekhov. I think all the other actors are dead.
I think so.
And they're always like, we're going to start this new Star Trek show. Maybe we can see if we can get fucking William Shatner to come back. And it's like, stop. Stop doing that.
I was sad when Majel Barrett died.
Oh, yeah.
She was so much a part of Star Trek. From the beginning. I mean, she was actually in the pilot of the original series.
Yeah, she was second in command.
She was second in command, and then that got changed.
You read that TNG only Geordi was known when they started because he had played in some. That is the funniest sentence I've ever read. But it's coming from someone who's not an American. He played in some show called Roots. Yes, he played in some show called Roots. It's a very funny statement from an American reading that. Picard came from theater. That's correct. Patrick Stewart was well known in the theater world, but not.
He was a Shakespearean actor.
Yeah.
Yeah, Trika Roots was probably the touchstone series for Black people in this country.
Yeah. You've heard the name Roots, but you've never actually seen it. I've never actually sat down and watched the whole thing, but I've seen chunks of it.
I saw it when it first came out. And it was interesting.
It's one of those shows that's like, it doesn't pull any punches. It shows it.
Yeah, it's painful. It's painful.
It's brutal to watch. But I mean, that's the way it was. A show that was broadcast locally. I think it's available worldwide now, but at the time, yeah, it was definitely an American thing. Because I mean, I think it really only applies to the United States.
Yeah, it was the first time that slavery was actually given any coverage, I guess. I mean, slaves had been in other series and movies and stuff before, but this was the first time. It was almost an all-black cast, and it was the first time that slavery was treated as a serious subject.
Yeah, it was shown for what it truly was, and not just, a fact of life. It was shown for what it really meant and how it really was in real life.
Yeah, before that it was all, I don't know nothing about birthing no babies. The silliness. Or the mammy.
Yeah.
Which was, okay, people like that existed, yes, but that didn't give the true experience, I guess, of slavery. But Roots did. I mean, you saw them being whipped, you saw them being mutilated, you saw them with their names taken away from them. That was one of the big things, is that his character had an African name and he refused to let it be taken away from him, and he paid for it.
Mm-hmm.
He was brutally beaten for that.
Yeah, that was LeVar Burton's character, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was the main character in the first part of the series. And he did an excellent job. I mean, that had to be brutal for the actors as well. But if you ever get the chance to watch it, watch it. But again, it's one of those things that once you've watched it once, you don't really want to watch it again because it is painful.
Yeah.
And you've gotten the message already. This red paint doesn't come off very easy.
Mm-mm. Yeah, you gotta work at it. You think you had Dallas broadcast there? Dallas and Roots are a little different. Not quite the same thing. You watched 12 Years a Slave? I haven't seen that.
I haven't seen that one either.
It's very good.
Well, the difference between that and Roots is that Roots goes into it as a generational thing.
Yeah, because Roots isn't just the story of one person. It's the story of, like, a lot of people.
Yeah. That one person, his children, his children's children, his children's children's children, you know, all still slaves. And I have to say, white Americans do not appreciate being reminded about slavery as a whole.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing, it's demoralizing, it's something we wish hadn't happened, but it wasn't us that did it, you know? But it's just embarrassing that as a people we allowed that to happen.
The thing that's more embarrassing now is that they people don't want to, they want to pretend like it didn't happen, though. They want to ignore it and put it under a rug and be like, nope, no reason to talk about that ever again.
Yeah.
No reason for our kids to learn about it. And it's all like, oh, yes, there is.
Boy, this clanking when you walk around is kind of weird.
Oh, I have a lot of my audio turned really, really low, so I don't hear it.
Matt, have you ever watched Ken Burns' The Civil War?
I don't know. I'm going to go with I don't think so.
That was a really good series. He did such a good job with that.
You watched his show on the Vietnam War and it was great.
Yes, it was very good.
I think that's a misconception, Trika. I don't think Americans think of slavery as something that we invented. But
We allowed it to continue for a lot longer than most countries did.
yeah, we were one of the more modern versions of it. I mean, I know it was the 1800s, but by that point, most of the other slavery was not in heavy use anymore. You also have to keep in mind that American television and movies permeates the world. So we may not be trying to say that we started it. We may be talking about our own problems with slavery. It just so happens that our media goes all around the world. So it may seem like that's what we're trying to say.
Yeah, I can see that. I could see where other countries would see our uh, documentaries and such as egocentric.
Sure.
But that's because they were meant for us as the audience, not for the rest of the world.
Yeah. There's other than recently, there's not a whole lot of media that was made in the United States that with the assumption that everyone else would see it. It just happened that way.
It's easy to get a stereotypical view of another country when you only see bits and pieces of their programming and their culture. Like with Britain, you watch some of the early comedies from Britain, like Are You Being Served and some of the others. And it gives you this viewpoint of British people as being kind of vain and stupid, when we have to remember that's a comedy and it wasn't really true to form. But for us, that's the only reference point we've got. Monty Python and all of those. And for a long time, that's all the Americans got to see of British TV.
Yeah. The comedies.
And yeah, we loved them. We thought they were hilarious, but it gave us a viewpoint of British people that wasn't actually accurate. Now, I subscribe to BritBox and Acorn, which shows only British TV, or mostly British TV, let's put it that way. They do sometimes show other countries, but it's really interesting to look at the way they do certain dramas like police procedurals and stuff like that. Is much different than we would do it here.
Mm-hmm.
Also, hi, John.
Yeah, what's up, John? Estate sounds fancy. That's the point. Want it to sound fancy.
Well, an estate sale here is simply when you're selling off someone's possessions in a certain way.
Yeah, it's essentially selling off all their worldly possessions at once. So it's like, it's not a garage sale.
No. And it's usually done after someone's already deceased,
Yeah.
although not always. Sometimes it's done when they're moving to assisted living or something like that and just can't take their stuff.
Is a common house also an estate? No. We don't normally refer to our homes as estates. Like, maybe rich, posh, douchebag Americans do, but the general populace does not.
No. It's done it's a legal term meaning what's left after someone dies, basically. For the most part. Not always, but when someone's will is being probated, it's their estate is being settled. What the heck? Oh, there it is. Okay. Couldn't see my nozzle.
Yeah, it does that to me sometimes too. I usually have to like face up and down.
Yeah,
And it'll pop
that's what
back
I
into
did.
existence. Sure. Sure. We're also familiar with that definition, essentially. That's just not what it's commonly used for here.
Yeah, if you used it that way, you would be considered snobbish, basically. Whereas in other countries like Britain, an estate would be a large house, a large property.
Yeah. We have this
And
thing. Go ahead.
everybody would refer to it as an estate there.
Yeah. We have this thing in the United States where we'll have the same word but multiple different kinds of definitions for it.
Yeah.
So we understand the definition of estate the way you mean it. It's just not the common use here. Jeff Bezos would call the where he lives an estate.
Our current president calls his an estate.
Fuck off with all that.
I know. We won't go into that.
You're probably thinking the UK version. UK uses it more commonly than we do, yes.
Yeah, they do. We're streaming on his platform.
Yeah.
Who, Jeff Bezos?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't have as much trouble with him as I do some of the other big moguls, especially those that are currently in the news. I don't mind people being rich as long as they're not bastards about it. Maybe he is bastard. I don't know.
I mean, yeah,
I'm
a
not
little
that familiar with him.
bit. Yeah, a little bit. I don't really want to get into that though.
Yeah.
Because that'll lead down other roads I don't want to talk about.
Yeah, I agree with you. I know what you're saying. How did this town get so dirty? Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you, Trika. You don't hear as much about them as you do some others.
You did get my message I sent you the other day, didn't you, Mom?
Not sure. Should have.
It was in Discord.
Oh, I have to admit, I don't read Discord.
What?
Unless I get a notification that something's on Discord regarding me.
Well, it was directed specifically. It was a private message. It only went to you.
Oh. Well, hang on then. Let me check. So was it a DM?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It was like 2 or 3 days ago, I think.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I see what you're referring to. Yeah. Yeah, I got that.
Okay. You never responded, so I wasn't sure if you
Well,
saw it or not.
I didn't know that there was anything I needed to comment on.
No, not necessarily.
I mean, that was your decision and fine with that. Okay.
You'll maybe I'll DM your mom too. You should. She won't see it. Lucid showed up here a second ago, didn't he?
Don't know.
I'm sure he was in chat.
I'm honestly not paying as much attention to chat as I should.
Well, that's my job, really.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, Lucid's here. Tonight, Lucid, is the final night of the sumo tournament.